up, everybody? I'm Maria Martin. Thank you for joining us tonight for our National Signing Day special. Always a special time of the year, regardless of if it's in December or February. But you know what? These days, the early signing in December is usually the day where the majority of the players make their decisions, at least for the big programs around the country. But today, school's rounding out their 2022 signing classes, and we're going to get you all caught up. So let's start with the reigning national champs. The Georgia Bulldogs, UGA, added 5 more players to round out their class today. That includes wide receiver Dylan Bell out of Houston, linebacker E.J. Lightsey from Fitzgerald, Georgia, All-American defensive lineman Kristen Miller from Cedar Grove High School. We're going to have a lot more on him coming up in just a little bit. Also, running back Andrew Paul from Dallas, Texas, and linebacker Darius Smith from Baxley, Georgia. All in all, Georgia has 29 members of this class, and head coach Kirby Smart is thrilled that so many of them are early enrollees, 19 to be exact.
I'm excited about this recruiting class. Number one reason I'm excited is because I guess 19 of them are mid-years. We got 19 mid-year enrollees who have been very impactful in adding depth to our roster. But as they begin to work out and go through our academics, our equipment staff, our nutrition staff, our player development staff, everybody has commented about this group, how serious they are, how well-mannered they are, and how they handle their business. So that's always good to know you got the right kind of kids in your organization.
Nobody recruits like Kirby Smart. We'll talk about that in a second as well. But one big storyline heading into signing day today was where Cedar Grove defensive lineman Kristen Miller was going to sign. It was so exciting, and he was the highest rated player in the state of Georgia, left undecided. And ultimately, as you guys saw on social media, he chose Georgia over Ohio State, Florida A&M, and Miami. He joins a defensive heavy Bulldogs class this year as an All-American, and our Reggie Chapman caught up with him bright and early this morning.
All right, man, you decided to pick Georgia. What went into that decision?
Man, first of all, I want to say you probably knew where I was going with this red jacket on, man. Come on, now you done told the Cristobal. But no, I knew when I was at the All-American Bowl, I just wanted to really just take my time. But I knew when I was at the All-American Bowl that I wanted to be with a great group of guys. I wanted to be at a great program because, of course, I knew about the program. I knew what they was doing. I knew what was in place. But really, I just wanted to get around more of the guys and see, like, because having a connection with the guys is important. Those guys you playing with, you next to them. So I really feel like I can go to war. I can go to war with them boys. We gonna be at it. We gonna be on it. But I feel like the love is there, and I'm just ready to work. Like I keep saying, I'm ready to work. Like ain't no more talking. I'm ready to work. Get to it, and just bring that energy.
I thought it was interesting you talked about you didn't know if you would ever see yourself actually going to Georgia, yet it was one of your dream schools.
It was always my dream school, but I never really thought I'd see myself committing here. Like, it's really a dream. I'm really blessed. Like, I don't really know how to really feel, but I'm really blessed. Like I said earlier, Coach Kirby Smart, he run a great program. I feel like he put the guys in line to where they can win, not only win on the field, but off the field too. So I feel like that's very important. Coach Travion Scott, my D-line coach, he really just truly believed in me. He really showed me that, Chris, listen, wherever you go, I'm gonna be your biggest fan, and that's what stood out to me. And he loves his wife, his kids. I just love the way he loves his family, and he loves us too. He sacrificed so much time with us. He spent more time with us than he could do with his family, so it stands out. And he's a great guy, and I just want to be around that.
You also are going to a school where they're putting out a lot of NFL guys. Of course, Jordan Davis, one of those guys. I mean, you look up to guys like him, and how big in your decision was that, knowing that you could get the NFL?
Man, I feel like Jordan Davis came in. Not a lot of people was talking about him. They didn't really know where he was going to play. He came in as an O-lineman, really, and then walked in, played D-line for Coach Scott. Coach Scott gave him a chance. He put his head down just like I want to do. He just worked, and look at him now. That boy blessed. That boy blessed. He finna go do big things in the league, be able to feed his family, be able to do good things for his family. And guys like that I look up to. Devontae Wyatt, I look up to. Trayvon Walker, I look up to. Kobe Dean, the way he was a leader on the field, I look up to. But we going to the next national championship. But it ain't going to be given. It's going to be work for us, and we definitely going to work for it, and I'm ready to work for it.
I got 2 questions for you. The first one, for people who have never seen you play before, they're seeing you for the first time, what kind of player should Georgia fans expect to see from you on the field?
Explosive. I hurt myself in the state championship game. We won that, got that ring, but I'm coming back even more explosive. I'm taking it day by day, but you're going to get an explosive player. I'm 6'4", 6'5"-ish, 290. I can move. I can play I can play D-tackle. Or wherever you want me to play, I can play it. I'm athletic. You're going to get a good get-off. You're gonna get some physical plays. I'm physical. Don't let this smile fool you. I'm real physical. Y'all gonna get a good player, but not only a good player, a great person. And I'm trying my best every day to be the best version I can be of myself. So I can get a good person. That's really the most important thing. Dog family. This ain't for 4 years, ain't for 3 years. It's for the rest of my life. Let's go.
Last question for you, man. How important and how happy are you to be able to represent your home state and your city on a big stage like this?
I'm excited. I'm humble. I'm just really ready to work. I can't not stop saying it. I'm so ready to go to work, man. But I'm just gonna let God lead me and let God take me through my recovery and my rehab.
Georgia fans, you got a big one. It's the man right here.
Hey, go Dogs, baby.
Reggie, appreciate that. I love his personality. He's definitely someone I can tell that Kirby got for a reason. He's been a state champion in 2019, and now he talked about that national championship that he hopes the Dogs can win again. A great addition to the signing class. But here to help us break down yet another signing day is our friend Chad Simmons, who is the director of recruiting for On3 Sports. Chad, good to see you on a day that is not so busy for you, I'm sure. Appreciate you taking the time. Let's start overall. Texas A&M, Alabama, and Georgia securing yet again the top 3 signing classes of 2022. What's the biggest gap between these three schools, or is it just really close?
Anytime you're in the top 3, I think obviously it's very close. You sign, that's a great class. Is A&M an elite, maybe historic class by the numbers? Yes. I think the biggest probably difference, if you look at it on paper, as far as rankings and stars and what we do at On3, it's probably A&M signing a historic, 7 5-stars in this class, and then Alabama and Georgia just in sarcasm saying just 4 5-stars. So again, Saban and Kirby, recruit at a high level, but A&M definitely won this cycle and won this year in 2022 as far as the top recruiting class.
And Kirby was really close, like you talked about when you talk about that narrow margin there. Kirby was getting out there on the Kirby copter. He was going everywhere. Let's hone in on this Georgia class for a second, because 5 guys added to an already impressive class for the Bulldogs. Is there anyone that jumps out particular to you, and why?
Well, I think, the guy you guys just talked to, and Kristen Miller, I think you said it perfect with his personality. I mean, he's a guy that everybody loves. He's a guy that will make the locker room better. He's a guy that will make the football team better. He'll make the campus in Athens better. His smile, he's very infectious personality. He's a guy that works hard, plays hard, easy to like, easy to root for. Obviously very productive on the field, a state champion. At Cedar Grove, a great program. Georgia's kind of trying to build that pipeline from Cedar Grove and Ellenwood, Georgia, over to Athens. But he's the big name. I'd say a guy that's not talked about a lot, that stands out a lot to me is Darius Smith. He's from Appling County down in South Georgia, small rural country town that doesn't get a lot of hype, as far as the media in the metro area like Cedar Grove does. But he's a kid that's, 6'6", 225, 230, I think 35-inch arms, super athletic. It's still a lot to build on from a frame standpoint. And I want to definitely mention, too, the guy that got on just this week with Andrew Paul, running back from Dallas, Texas area, won the state championship there and rushed for 2,600 plus yards, I think 44 total touchdowns. They offered him on Sunday last week, got him on the official, and going into that trip, it was all about Clemson and Michigan. So a great job by Kirby Smart, especially running backs coach Del McGee, for really recruiting him for 7 or 8 days and beating out top programs like Clemson and Michigan for maybe one of the top sleeper running backs in the country.
Yeah, look, that's pretty impressive, because you talk about Kirby Smart, who's a guy who normally gets in with these kids very early in the recruiting process when they're really young. So for them to recruit him for only 7-8 days is incredibly impressive. You brought up Darius Smith. I want to go back to him for a second as one of those underrated guys that you talked about. When you look at him on film, you talked about his measurables and what excites you in terms of his size, but what kind of pops out when you look at him on film?
I think just the raw athleticism. He runs track, he plays basketball. Obviously, just the body and what what we do as as analysts and evaluators. You try to project, and you look at what he is now, and you think about him going from a small program like Appling County. Nothing against that program, but it's not the University of Georgia. You put him at Georgia in the nutritional program, the weight program, the coaching around him, the players that will make him better and push him every day at Georgia. I think you have to like what he can become. And I think Kirby said today as well, as guys like him that play that role as far as that stand-up edge guy, pass rush, can drop into the flats, really excel, in their scheme. And I think Darius definitely, it may take him some time to get up to speed and be able to kind of contribute on a regular basis at Georgia. But I think just the athleticism and raw tools that Kirby Smart, Will Muschamp, Glenn Schumann, those guys have to work with when they get him to Athens.
And if there's anything that they can do, it's develop defensive talent. This is a defensive heavy class, as we were talking about, 29 signees for Georgia. But let's look at this as a whole, Chad, because you've got a quarterback coming in and Gunnar Stockton. This happened in the last signing period. Is there anything that the Dogs maybe left on the table this year, or you feel pretty confident that this is a pretty complete class?
I think it's hard to ever have a perfect, complete class. I mean, even talking about Texas A&M, they had maybe a couple of position spots. They're number one in the country and by substantial margin, but they still had some holes and missed on a few guys. I think probably Georgia's biggest area, they have to really come back on in 2023 and do well as offensive line. They signed 4, but no true elite, left tackle type. And the transfer portal obviously has changed everything too. And, that they have to hit, I think, next year at offensive line and wide receiver. That'll be 2 big needs for Georgia next cycle. Not saying they didn't hit, on certain guys at those positions this year in 2022, but I think offensive line specifically stands out to me, specifically really the offensive tackle spot. They have some good players and guys I think that maybe are more, projects for a program like Georgia. They need to hit on some top elite offensive tackles next year.
That's going to be interesting to watch how they can develop that position. Okay, Kirby Smart made some very interesting comments today on name, image, and likeness affecting signing day. Let's go ahead and have a listen to what he said.
Facilities, academics, what we can do for you, life after football. Those things have taken a back burner to NIL for a lot of people. Once you explain to kids that we can't set that up, we can't promise that, but what people are doing is they're validating their NIL by showing what their current roster makes. I'm not of the opinion kids should be making decisions based on that. And you're probably recruiting the wrong guy if that's all they're making their decision based on.
Okay, so this is very interesting, and this is in part of pretty much a 2-minute rant that he had about NIL. Chad, you and I could probably talk about this for the rest of the show, but we're not going to do that. But my one question for you is, how much of an impact have you already seen the NIL making on signing day, whether that be December or today in February?
Oh, it's definitely making an impact. There's no doubt. I mean, I think talking about Georgia maybe missing on some guys on the offensive line, and it wasn't even a great, deep group there at that position this year, but Texas definitely signed the top offensive line group in this country, and they all got signed an NIL deal, getting $50,000 per year. They're at Texas. That's an offensive line deal. Every O-line they signed this year gets $50,000, for 4 years. That's $200,000 for a young kid. And that definitely played a role, I think, and then landing some of those guys. So I definitely hear much more about it. But I do agree. I think most in college football and on my side of things to agree with Kirby that, it's going to, I think, be tweaked and get regulated, that and the transfer portal. And they've got to make some changes, to bring it back. If they want to make it competitive across the country, which I think they do in football, they've got to change some things. So, yeah, I have seen it pick up, obviously February, also in December. And this whole class in general, being the first one to take advantage of that. And it's great for the kids to use their name, likeness and image, to take advantage of that opportunity. But I do think it will scale back over time in the coming years.
Yeah, this is brand new for everyone. So this is just uncharted territory that I think everyone's just starting to navigate. So we'll see how this plays out here in the next year or two. We're going to move on to Georgia Tech really quickly because it was a quiet day for them, but they signed 1 guy. They also did manage to add a lot of good transfers with 7 guys. You talked about the transfer portal and coaches taking advantage of that. Chad, for a team like Tech who really needs a good signing class and to make sure that those signing classes turn into winning products on the field, do you think Jeff Collins is set up for success with this class?
Yeah, I think, honestly, the recruiting classes, really sad to say, don't mean quite as much now because of the transfer portal and guys able to just leave and go play somewhere the next season. So recruiting, yes, very, very important. But I think Jeff Collins did a better job, getting guys like Pierce Quick from Alabama or Paul Tachio from Clemson, going up and getting, a guy from Notre Dame like Kari G, a Woodward Academy star right there in Atlanta. So I think he took advantage of the opportunity in the transfer portal to get guys that can come in, college ready, game ready to make an impact, this fall. The class is what it is at Georgia Tech. They're not going to sign typically an elite class. He has to do what he can do under Georgia Tech standards and regulations academically and so on. But I do think he did a great job with the transfer portal. And I think he has to keep doing that as long as that's there for the taking.
Okay, good deal. Chad Simmons from On 3, thank you so much for joining us. Appreciate you joining us on this very busy day for you. Okay, 29 total signees in this year's class for Kirby Smart and the Georgia Bulldogs are loaded once again. Here to break down not just the 5 guys that secured today, but the 2022 class as a whole is our Reggie Chapman again, and now with one of our Bulldogs insiders, Jed May.
What's up, everybody? I'm here with Jed May. Jed, it's obviously National Signing Day. A lot of the biggest names come out during early National Signing Day, but we're here at Cedar Grove High School. There's a big reason for that. Kristen Miller obviously signed to UGA. What kind of commitment is he for Georgia?
He's huge. You know, this is the biggest, I guess, domino left to fall for Georgia in this portion of the signing period. He's a 4-star defensive lineman out of Cedar Grove High School, like you said, and he's a guy that he has a lot of versatility along the defensive line. You know, he can play on the inside, he can slide out to the outside, and he's got a lot of versatility along the defensive front. So it's going to be interesting to see once he gets to Athens, you know, whether they want him to slim up, put on weight, and sort of exactly how they would utilize him in the fall. Because, you know, the defensive front lost a lot of guys. Obviously, Jordan Davis, Julian Rochester, Devontae Wyatt, Trayvon Walker. So it'll be interesting to see sort of where they want him to slide in and where they want him to play. So I think it's going to be interesting to see what happens with him in the fall.
I think we both talked to him. One of the things he said is that he was either between going to Georgia and Ohio State. I think for you, why do you think he ended up choosing the Georgia route based on what he said to you, and what kind of impact do you think he can make in his first year?
Well, speaking with his parents and Kristen, they both said it felt like home. You know, I think his dad said it's like, you know, you go to somebody's house and they blow you away with the food and the ambiance. It just feels like home, and that's what, you know, it's it. And this recruitment is one, and his parents said it hasn't been Georgia the whole time. You know, there's been USC was the favorite for a while, Ohio State. Kristen told us, you know, he's been silently committed to 2 other places before this, and the Georgia coaching staff kept recruiting him and said, take your time. And they were persistent. Coach Trey Scott and all those guys, they kept recruiting him, and ultimately it paid off with this commitment signing today. So I think, like I said earlier, Georgia lost a lot of guys off that defensive front. I think he could be a guy that comes in and challenges for playing time this fall. Maybe not necessarily a starter per se, but a guy that, you know, fills into that rotation and certainly gets, you know, playing time behind those frontline guys like Jalen Carter.
What else should people be looking for today for Georgia? Maybe some other names they got recruiting-wise. You mentioned a guy from Texas that everybody been looking after as well.
Yeah, one of the biggest storylines today, so Georgia had a running back committed, Jordan James out of Tennessee. He has flipped to Oregon, I believe. And then Georgia lands a commitment from Andrew Paul, a running back out of Dallas, who just got offered by Georgia last week. He got an offer, I believe it was Monday, visited Georgia on an official visit last weekend, and committed to Georgia over Clemson this morning. He's a big, physical guy. He really came on late in his senior year. I think he had, you know, 1,100 yards and 15 touchdowns in the Texas high school playoffs in 3 games. So that's another guy that's interesting to watch and just kind of see. Obviously, Georgia's got the RBU tradition, right? So it's going to be interesting to see with Zamir White and James Cook gone, if Andrew Paul and Branson Robinson out of Mississippi as well already signed, how they'll challenge for playing time next year.
Where do you feel like Georgia is right now at the end of this recruiting cycle? Where do you kind of feel they are? Are they still looking for more? Or do they feel like they're in a good spot right now?
I think, you know, just with the way college football is now, I think you're going to see the transfer portal. You know, I wouldn't be surprised if they look to add, you know, maybe some help in the defensive backfield, maybe a big-time receiver out of the transfer portal as those dominoes kind of fall. I think what fans need to remember is, you know, last year, remember Darion, Kendrick, and Eric Gilbert both committed on June 1st. So the fact that there's not a lot of transfer dominoes falling, you know, into Athens right now, it doesn't necessarily mean that Kirby Smart and those guys won't be hitting out later. So look for the transfer portal at those a couple positions to maybe, you know, start falling Georgia's way. You know, once the spring semester gets over and we get into, you know, May and June.
I guess my last question for you: do you like where Georgia is right now? Of course, they still want to go back to the transfer portal, but do you feel like Kirby and his team did what they needed to do, get the players that they needed to heading into next year, coming off of a national championship season?
I do. You know, you look at, you know, the offensive line is a position where there weren't a ton of 5-stars this class, but Georgia also has Warren McClendon coming back and, you know, Broderick Jones feeling it. Like, you know, the positions they've needed, I think maybe they missed out on some really elite receivers like Luther Burden, Andre Green, those guys. But like I said, there's always the transfer portal for that. And they've got good receivers in this class like Denila Morissette, Cole Spear, those guys as well. So, yeah, I think they've hit on their, you know, obviously this defensive back class is one that's going to be legendary, I think, with the amount of talent they brought in. When you're at Georgia, you're going to land a lot of top talent. That's exactly what they did in this signing class.
Georgia, another big recruiting class. Of course, the work put in by this man letting us all know how it all went down. Thanks, Jed.
Yep, thanks.
Guys, thank you. We keep talking about the transfer portal and this defensive heavy class for Georgia. So a lot to pay attention to when it comes to the Dogs. But as for Georgia Tech, not as much action from the Yellow Jackets today. They only added one more addition to their signing class, wide receiver Julian, a.k.a. Juju Lewis from Davie, Florida. That is Broward County. So in total, Georgia Tech will welcome 14 true freshmen as members of its latest class. 8 of them ranked as 4-star prospects, which is close to a new record. And in addition, the Yellow Jackets added 7 transfers from around the country, which is great for Jeff Collins. New running backs coach Mike Daniels talked today, and he is so thrilled to be working with this new class, including local star Antonio Martin Jr.
What I love about the kid so far is his spirit, his ability to learn, his desire to learn is high. A really good, feel-good soul to him, and when you talk to him and when you listen to him, he's been raised right. So I'm excited for him to just get in here and transform his body into a more college running back, and for us to be able to utilize him and learn and see what he has this spring.
A feel-good soul. I love that. Some bad news, though, for Georgia Tech, who missed out on receiver Jin Iron Bonner. The 4-star wide receiver, he made a commitment earlier to the Yellow Jackets before announcing today he's going to be playing for Nebraska this fall. Great season at Carver in Atlanta. State championship appearance for them. And one of the stars, Quintavious Lockett, will continue on at Highland Community College in Kansas. A very good football program. Congratulations to him. Lockett, a 220-pound running back, has bigger dreams and goals.
You know, with the transfer portal, it's blowing back on high school students, so it got kind of hard when it came to the COVID situation and all that. And Highland, they were the best community college to get me back in that state where I can go D1, go big, and make my family proud.
And I absolutely believe he will. Good luck to him. And elsewhere around the state, Eastside High School's Jaylen Farmer committed to Florida. The offensive lineman stuck with the Gators over Alabama, Auburn, and Kentucky. Some heavy hitters there. To the ACC, Miles Oliver will be joining the Clemson Tigers. The Douglas County safety chose to join Dabo Sweeney over staying closer to home and joining Georgia Tech. Creekside safety Darius Miller is joining the herd. That is Marshall. Miller choosing Marshall over Alabama and Auburn. The 3-star recruit is considered a top 50 safety in the country. And before we go, we want to shine a spotlight on one more local athlete for National Signing Day. And even if you don't heavily follow high school sports, you just might recognize him.
I'll be spending the next 4 years of my life at Charleston University.
That is Booker T. Washington High School senior King Walker. You may remember him from a story we did around Election Day last November. Caitlin Ross shared his story of voting for the first time with his 94-year-old grandma Flossie. Love that so much. King had 3 offers on the table ahead of signing day. He chose Charleston Southern because it's a Christian university and he connected with the head coach, but he also said it wasn't an easy decision.
The road wasn't easy. I had to wake up every day, 6 a.m., lift weights. I had to grind out through the COVID years because COVID, we didn't even know it was going to have a football season my 11th grade year.
King will be a linebacker for CSU in the fall. And of course, Grandma Flossie and those other relatives right there by his side for the big moment today. That's my favorite part of signing day every single year, is seeing these families get together with their sons and embark on a new future and a new journey. I'm so excited for all of these kids, but that's it for tonight. Remember, there is a lot more recruiting news coming tomorrow. In fact, one of the top players in Georgia for the class of 2023 making a big decision. You're going to have to wait for that coming up tomorrow right here on 11 Alive. If you want to see more, you can always go to 11alive.com. For Reggie Chapman, Jed May, and Chad Simmons, I'm Marie Martin. Thanks for watching, and good luck to all you new signees out there.